All right, guys, welcome to this week's edition of Essie and Scrappy. Lucas De Silva on the mic this weekend at Super 32. But before we get to that, you and I haven't talked or we've talked, but we haven't talked in a show about the live show since it happened. And I don't know, debrief. What did you think of it? Like, just as a whole?
I mean, once again, we got to say it. Shout out to the guys, the wrestlers in business, and the cooler. It's one of the cooler things I've got to do in my life, in my career, whether it comes to wrestling or business, whatever the case may be. So for me, really awesome to get to go do that, and it was a lot of fun on my end.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I learned something very valuable, and that is you don't post a list on Instagram without any context.
Yeah, no, we found that out.
So
We were getting clapped
we
for a
were,
couple of
and
days.
the thing that was funny about that is that we gave an explanation, and even though I put where you could watch the YouTube, nobody paid any attention. They wanted to just voice their opinions.
They just wanted to argue.
They did just want to argue. And you know what? It is a subject that you could argue about. I mean, honestly, we went back and forth and everything else. But, in the future, sorry, guys, I think what I might do is just make a graphic that says top 25. If you want to hear what we think and what the top 25 are, you got to watch the show, because otherwise I'm not
Yeah.
going to just post it that way. Anyway, busy couple weeks. For those of you that don't know, I left that show and went up and hung out with some paleontologists for the week. So kind of an interesting thing. And then
Yeah.
I went directly to Super 32, and yet Lucas, you tried your hand at a different kind of wrestling before heading to Super 32.
Yeah, it was really fun. I
It
mean,
wasn't
it's
Jello
something that I've
wrestling,
always.
right? It wasn't any of that.
No. So those don't know, I had been teasing it and doing it on the side, and I got the opportunity to do some professional wrestling, which, I mean, look, a lot of us, I would say nearly the majority of amateur wrestlers at one point or another probably started off as professional wrestlers
No,
or
professional
professional
wrestlers
wrestling
started
fans for
off
that matter.
fans. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm saying
Uh
that it's a pathway for a lot of guys to get into amateur wrestling. I mean, Devon Dodgens still has the Rey Mysterio mask that he walked into his first practice at Chippewa Hills with. If you don't believe me, ask Dodgens and or Nate Etheridge that story. But yep, shout out to the guys down in Covington at Platinum Championship Wrestling, as well as they had given me some tickets to a previous show, but as well Future Atlanta Pro and New Georgia Pro Wrestling that actually I wrestled under. And we're gonna move on, but I'm just gonna throw one thing out there, and we'll kind of move on to a certain someone who I particularly don't even want to name and give him the clout, but I'm gonna do it here just to get it over with. For DJ Smoke, next time I am to see you in Covington, it's on site. Just I'm gonna make that real clear, and we'll leave that. We'll leave that for whenever. And if you got an opportunity, you got nothing to do this Friday, Covington Platinum Championship Wrestling, their Halloween Chaos show, be there. I might just be there, and I might just show up ready for a fight. That's all I'm
oh,
gonna say. And we'll leave
uh,
that there.
all right, all right. So, well, this weekend was the premier event, a high school style event, um,
Yeah.
for the high school boys in the country. It is Super 32. The girls, their event was fantastic as well. We'll get to that as well. We're going to cover the high school boys and the high school girls. We're not going to get into anyone else. We're going to go pretty quickly through this. I also have had the opportunity to get some clips of some kids who competed, and I had a few interviews with a few kids, not a ton, not all of them, obviously, that made the podium. But I guess my question to you before we jump in and just kind of start talking about some of the action, what was your takeaway for the boys, and what was your takeaway for the girls as a whole?
So for the girls, it's just purely a level of growth within that not only division but girls wrestling as a whole. It was exciting to see them and the way that they've developed, it was incredible to see that a lot of Southeast girls really had good performances. Again, we'll get there when we get there. And on the guys' side, man, that 3-point takedown changes everything. It just changes the way, like, even, shout out to Bray and the guys at Flow. I got the opportunity to commentate the finals, which, I said it to Bray before the broadcast, and I should have said it during the show. To go from the kid that at the 2012 Southern Scuffle sat next to Mark Bader with Paul Watkins and said, man, I want to do that one day, and got the opportunity to put a headset on and do it as like an 11-year-old kid. From that to doing the finals of Super 32 with Bray, it's been a really fun road, and that was a really fun thing to get to do. But we kept talking about it, that every time a score scenario came up, we were talking about how it being a 3-point takedown changes the way you have to think about the rest of the match.
Yeah, no, you have to recalculate it. You certainly have to change your brain to kind of oh, I'm actually, I just got taken down, but I'm not actually that far behind. Or I got taken down and put to my bag, and now I've got a hole. I mean, I had a hole before, but now I've got a real hole to kind of dig out of. So,
Yeah, like wrestling math has changed forever now,
yeah,
or at least
no.
as long as 3-point takedowns are in effect.
Well, and we saw it at Elite Eight, the 2, 3, and 4-point near falls, and we didn't see that this weekend with the near fall. But that's another thing. Boy, college is getting ready to start, and it's gonna be interesting to see how how it is. I like
Oh,
it
for sure. I mean,
personally, but it's just interesting.
shout out to Killian and the guys here at Emmanuel. I mean, we've been harping on that the way it works now, you are much more rewarded for being good on top.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it changes the way you have to think about wrestling, top and bottom specifically.
So my takeaway, just real quick, was what you said with the girls, and that is the level of growth in sheer terms of numbers was way up, and that's what I was talking to people, because I actually got asked the question I just asked you. I got asked the question by several people. What were the takeaways? And the first one was the number of girls there. But I'll tell you what, the quality of competition, the number of Fargo finalists, the number of Fargo champions in some of the brackets, world team members, it's
For sure.
it was impressive, the level of competition for the girls. On the guys' side, so it was 2 takeaways for me. And the first takeaway was that, man, Pennsylvania's good. They're just good. I think they had 9 finalists and 7 champions, and
they went 7-2 in the finals.
Yeah, they were impressive. And Georgia was pretty damn impressive. No belts for the Southeast this year, but man, I'll tell you what Georgia had 7 make the podium. That's pretty impressive.
I think 7 make the podium, finishing 5th, which I want to say, at least points wise, I think it was a record high in points for Georgia.
Yeah, I don't get really into detail about the points, because the points, if you bring, because it's an open tournament, if you bring like 15 more kids, they still have to wrestle well, but they have so many more opportunities to score points. That's one of the reasons why Pennsylvania is so far ahead in some respects, is because they bring a ton of kids. But
everybody and their mother who is halfway decent from Pennsylvania goes to Super 32.
That's right. All right.
Which I think is a big point. I mean, the year that Grappler Fall Classic was in Myrtle Beach, we saw that the Southeast was dominant. There's a trend that certain tournaments, certain crews are going to bring everybody, and Super 32 is a PA tournament.
It is
one of theirs
that
they
bring
everybody.
Well, and what's really interesting is it's not as much of a Southeast tournament, even though it sits in North Carolina. It's kind of
You would assume,
unusual.
but it's really not.
Right. All right, so let's move on and let's jump into just a few things that kind of stood out in each weight before we, move to the next thing. 106 pounds. Did you have anybody that stood out to you?
A guy that stood out that didn't place to me was Tanner Tran. He had a real good run. Um, Man, who did he catch on the front side? I think he caught Burnett on the front side. Yeah, he caught Burnett and then one or two more on the back end. But I mean, as well, of course, placing Seamus Regan, he wrestled real tough.
Hmm.
I got to watch his quarterfinal against Noble. I was on the mic for that one. But yeah,
Mm.
those were my main two guys specifically from the southeast.
So my main guy from the Southeast, I won't mention Reagan because you already covered him, is Cooper Foster, state champion in 1A small school, North Carolina, Avery County. Cooper Foster beat Keon Simon in the opening match, 4-0. Ended up getting to, I think, the round before the blood round, and then was eliminated. But he lost to the 3 seed and a placer in Villasenor, I think in the round of 16, and then came back through and got close. And that was, there were 6 North Carolina kids who got kind of close. None of them were able to get over the hump. But I'll tell you what, Cooper Foster wrestled pretty damn well. All right. 113
Agreed.
pounds. 113 pounds. And did you get a chance to see the picture I took of Jojo Urachuk?
I saw the picture of his eye, and I also saw his eye at one point earlier in the day. Good God. Who hit him with a sledgehammer in the face?
Yeah. So it was Seiden from Pennsylvania in their first match.
That
Like,
makes sense.
yeah. So 2 placers from the Southeast, Urachuk and JJ Peace, both wrestled really well. Peace, I think, would he end up 6th, I think.
Yeah, I think
Ur-
6.
Urachuk took 4th, lost to Seiden again. And I got a chance to talk to Jojo Urachuk, and it was fun to talk to him about kind of the experience at Super 32. All right, Jojo. First, congrats, man.
Thank you.
4th place, Super 32. Tougher, Super 32 or Fargo?
Oof. I think this year for me it was probably Fargo because it was learning all the rules and learning the styles. It's my first year for like freestyle, so I would say Fargo. But overall, if I were to wrestle freestyle and know all the rules, I think Super 32 is probably hard. I think more people do folk style. So
yeah. So how was the prep coming in?
it was hard. We took our fall break off and we went and visited my brother. So when I got back, it was real. I needed to get back in my gas tank. I needed to get back, make sure my skills were looking good and looking slick. So it wasn't as long as it usually is, but when I got back, it was real rough. So
how was it visiting your brother?
it was awesome. It was
Yeah?
awesome. I missed them. Yeah, we don't get to see them a lot, so seeing them really makes my day. So.
Are all the Urachuks going to head to West Point? Is that
I don't
the
know,
future?
man. I guess we'll have to see. Ethan hasn't decided his yet, and obviously colleges can't contact me yet. So I guess we'll see, man.
Yeah. I was just curious because I know 2 of them are there, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So you got a second match in your 3rd, 4th place match. It didn't come out the way you wanted to.
Right.
What was kind of the mindset trying to go into that match?
So in the quarters, I knew I had a bad first period. He took me down with doubles twice or 3 times maybe. So I knew my stance needed to get longer. I needed to use my length as my ability and really force my scrambles and my positions. Obviously, the first period is 1 minute, so I think he shot once maybe. So there wasn't much action there, and then. One simple mistake on top, which is usually where I feel the most comfortable, and he gets my arm across, and I get reversed, and that cost me the match. So you know what it is. You live, you learn. So it's all right. I'm taking home 4th, and I'm not content with it. I'm not happy, but I'm ready to get after it next year.
You ready to get that belt next year?
Yes, sir, for sure.
All right. So last question. How's the transition from this to now high school? Because it's a whole other level. So
Right.
how do you kind of, is it about motivating your teammates, kind of working for the team title, that sort of thing?
Right. Yes, sir. So obviously my preseason's where I get my good competition, and we're going to Beast of the East this year, so that's going to be my competition where I'm really going to be thinking about in my head until it's there. That's what I'm going to be training for. So my preseason's really hard, and then my high school season, I get some tough competition, but overall it's not as good as my preseason. So I try to focus on getting the team built up, getting them ready for state, and really trying to be a captain and lead my team to another state title.
Yeah, you guys are going to be in the hunt.
Hopefully, yes, sir.
All right, man. Good luck. Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you.
So what was your kind of takeaway from 113?
113 was a really good weight, man.
It
Like,
was.
it's, commentating, it was just a really tough weight from top to bottom. The guy that I was really happy with, DJ Clark, first round of the tournament, drops to a really tough Nathan Rouge, gets, I think, 4 on the backside, and then loses to Valdez out of California, who is an animal. And for that kid, I give him a lot of credit. He's made a lot of jumps in the past, in this offseason specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, Seidel is one of the first guys I've seen that made Monaretto look mortal.
Whoa, he did, didn't he?
And then for those who don't know, I've got to commentate and watch Monaretto at Elite Eight and tournaments like that, and I've always said it. His style is so fascinating, and Seidel did something I thought impossible, and it was shut all of that down and beats him 3-0 in the finals. And one last thing, one of my favorite names of the tournament, 7th place out of this bracket, Titan Fredericks. Oh, a name. What
So
a name.
One of my favorite names is at 106 pounds, and that is Thunder Beard.
Oh, yeah, couple of really fantastic names. Couple of them.
A kid that I thought wrestled pretty well was out of South Carolina, and that was Preston White, who beat a Florida kid, Gibson, and lost to Davis Moika, who, if you don't know who Davis Moika is, he's a stud, and that's how he went out and back down to the bottom side. But Preston White, it's tough. You go 2-2, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, and that's, I don't want to say that's a great weekend, but it's really more about how you wrestled and how you competed than necessarily what your record ended up being.
Yeah, but I do think a 4-2, 5-2 record is for sure something to be able to take back home, at least with your chin up high about.
All right, so let's jump to 120. And yeah, give me your feelings about 120.
120 was a real interesting weight because you had Ant Knox sitting in the bracket, who always a character, always a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah,
commits to Cornell on the mat. But out of Southeast, obviously Rivera and Mills get to the podium, big ones for them. As a whole, for me, a guy that I want to shout out, Carson Dupel had himself a real good weekend, man. He gets a couple really good wins. Beats a kid at a PA in overtime. Weston Piarjarek is, I believe I say the kid's name. That dude is an animal. Loses to Nathan Desmond, which okay, you can't be mad about that loss. And then loses to Cannon Ackland in the blood rounds from Oklahoma, who, if you don't know Cannon Ackland, dude is a monster. So for me, round 4 of the blood rounds, he lost to Ackland. So for the 19 seed, he had a really, really good weekend, in my opinion. So that's someone specifically I want to shout out.
Yeah, so I got a chance to catch up with Antonio Mills, and one of the questions I had for him was, he's a sophomore, and now he's a 2-time Super 32 placer. All right, so 2-time Super 32 placer.
Yes,
how's
sir.
that feel?
Feel good. Feel great.
Yeah,
It's a nice feeling.
You're only a sophomore,
yes, sir.
So you made it both years.
Yes, sir.
Not where you wanted to finish on the podium, but how do you take a loss and then grind back to get onto the podium? Like mentally.
Mentally, yeah, that's what we were working on in practice. We were working on having that mentality, just go out there and wrestle and be a dog. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I came in here preparation to do the same thing. Not what I wanted, but seventh is good. It's better, but we just gonna go back in the practice room and get better. Keep working every day and get better.
Yeah. So we all see you on your feet. You're awesome on your feet. working on the mat, getting better on the mat. Do you feel like you made jumps as far as getting better on the mat?
I made jumps definitely on the mat this weekend. I improved a lot, but I need a little bit more work on bottom. A little bit more work on bottom.
All right, so next year we're coming back for the belt?
Yes, sir.
All
definitely.
right. So last question. Were you cutting at all? Were you
I cut a little weight.
So is there a meal that now that you don't have to worry about it as much? What are we eating?
Oh, well, me, I want some Popeyes. Not being biased, but yeah, I want some Popeyes.
That's pretty impressive.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you make the podium in your freshman year and you make the podium after your sophomore year. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that he talked about how it was important to continue getting better on top bottom. Like we've always thought of Antonio Mills as being on his feet and going and that sort of thing. And he can go with anybody on his feet. But if he's going to reach that next level, he's going to earn a belt. He's going to, whatever. He's got to continue to get better on the mat.
For sure. And I think that also comes along with the 3-point takedown where you kind of have to.
Yeah. So you mentioned Mills and Rivera, and that's actually where I think Rivera beat him was on the mat. Rivera ends up higher on the podium. Mills, I think, takes 7th. I loved Carson's run. You already said Dupil. And then Cam Stinson from North Carolina had a really good run as well.
Yeah.
Ended up going out, I think, the round before the blood round as well. Same round as Dupil. But, man, I'll tell you what, Southeast had some really, really good kids at 120 pounds. All right.
Completely agree. Let's
jump to 126. And, yeah, it was the Jax Forest show. But I'll tell you what. Yeah. What do you say?
I got to commentate his quarters and his sems. We're going to talk about Bishop McCourt as a whole. But all 3 of those kids that won from Bishop McCourt, Jax looked like a man possessed this weekend.
Yeah.
First off, in the round of 16, he gets Ethan Urachuk, smooth 20 of 15. Or 20 of 5, excuse me. All right. Then he catches Ninninger, 11-0. And I love knowing Ninninger. That 11-0 didn't show how dominant Jax is. Like, it's 11-0 doesn't cut it. Then wrestles Nick O'Neill, who's a monster. 17-1. Smooth. All right. Then in the finals, he wrestles JJ McComas, and you're going to see 5-3 and think, oh, it's close. Jax was in control of that match the entire time and probably should have had 2 more scores. I'm sorry, that second one was a reversal. I don't care when nobody tells me argue with a brick wall. That was a reversal. So I don't care what you tell me. But beyond that, a guy, Jake Craps, obviously from Southeast, gets on the podium, wrestled real tough, got caught with McComas, and McComas just kind of walked him down at the end. And I do want to shout out Tanner Spalding. He went 4-2 this weekend. He lost it. He catches Muttarelli on the front side, and Muttarelli would end up losing in the blood rounds. And then he caught 2 guys that lost in the blood rounds, but he had some solid wins as well. One over Jace Morgan at Michigan. He wrestled a good weekend. Just didn't necessarily get to the podium where he probably would have wanted to be, but it was for sure a good showing for the Circle Dub. Yeah,
so I'm going to throw out Ethan Urachuk, who was the same way, had a really good weekend. He lost 4-3 to Colin Martin in,
Thank you.
I don't remember where it was exactly on the backside, but, he lost to him 4-3. Urachuk, unfortunately got, Jax Forest to put him down into the Consi bracket. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. Charlie DeSena also wrestled pretty well, or wrestled really well. Got a pretty good way through the Consi side as well. And Lake Highland prep as a whole, we already mentioned Ethan Rivera. We'll mention CJ Torres coming up here in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Those sorts of things. Lake Highland prep, comparing, we haven't seen a whole lot of Blair kids at Super 32. We saw some Wyoming Sem kids. We saw them. I think Lake Highland prep is kind of really at the same level. They're in the mix with all those top programs. Nope.
I don't know, man. They're approaching them. I'm willing to say that I need to see them at national preps, like against these guys, or like at an Ironman. I need to see it in more of a sanctioned positioning, but I do think they're approaching them for sure. They have a hell of a program down there at Lake Highland, and they are. I mean, they always have. So don't, I'm not. That's not breaking news, but for sure, they're for sure approaching them. I don't know if I'm ready to say they're there yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Seamus Reagan is at Wyoming Sem. He placed. Bazakis is at Wyoming Sem. He placed. But, off the top of my head, unlike in past years, and I'm not saying Sem is necessarily falling off or anything like that.
No, I get what you're saying.
They didn't have any champions.
Yeah, it's not like previous years where you kind of know off the top of your head. I mean, Wyoming Sem and Blair do have question marks in their lineup, so by no means are they. Dare I say they're not immortal anymore, and that other teams as well, like the McDonough School, Valiant. Doesn't Valiant prep at Arizona? Which we'll get there when we get there. But like them, Malvern Prep. I think that it's gonna be I think national preps this upcoming season going to be very, very competitive. A lot more competitive than usual.
Yeah,
and I think Lake Highland is in that mix.
It just is felt, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just is felt right that for, I don't know, 2 decades or 3 decades, those 2 programs have been just so much better than everyone else. And it just doesn't feel
you're
like
not wrong. That's how it has been.
Yeah, but it just doesn't feel like it's that.
No,
that's the case.
You're
now.
Absolutely right.
So, all right.
So that's where I'll agree with you. That's for sure not the case anymore. At least doesn't look to be the case anymore.
132 pounds, man, Drew Gorman wrestled absolutely great. Took a loss to Davino. Then he looked really good against Herrera from Pennsylvania, PA in the blood rounds. He beat Swenson. Then he gets Larkin. I mean, we're talking, and then he beats Meza for 5th and 6th. I mean, we're talking a great weight.
Oh, for sure. Like, this is one of the better weights in at this tournament. So I'm going to say this now, though. I told everybody going into this weekend, I don't care who you throw in front of him. I'm not picking against Bo Bassett. Bassett looked like Tyson when he first walked out of prison.
I'll tell you
what. It's the first.
I agree. Bassett looked unbelievably
It's the first time I ever saw it. Like, whenever I see Bassett at a tournament, he smiles, big hug, daps me up the whole 9. But it's always friendly. Even when he's warming up, it's friendly. Not this weekend. This weekend, it was business. Now, if he was outside of his warm-up, for sure, dap, whatever. But when he actually was warming up, wasn't saying a word to nobody. And he was mad about that who's number 1 loss because he took it out on the entire state of Arizona, beating an Arizonian in the quarters, semis, and in the finals.
Yeah, he
wrestled 3 straight Arizonians.
He seemed like he had a big chip on his shoulder.
It for sure seemed like it.
It really did. For sure. It really did. I mean, and like you said, Bo is just a really nice kid. And like I'm not saying he's not focused, when he's getting ready to go and that sort of thing, but he did seem a little bit different. And when if
you don't know any better, you could think he's not focused. Like if you had never noticed him at a tournament before, and all of a sudden you see him acting the way he does, you could very well assume he's not focused. But it's similar to me, where that's just the way he gets focused. This kind of chilling out, not really getting no.
Well,
No, I'm
it's like
saying
it for anybody who's in Georgia, it's like the Ryder Wilder approach. Take off your shoes, hang out. I don't warm up, you know.
yeah, I just go out there and win. But so here's the other thing that's a madness to me, right? We were talking about it on the broadcast at Super 32. He has not lost a folk style match in 2 years.
That's true.
His
Yeah,
last folk style loss was Ant Knox at Super 32 2 years previous in the finals. That was his
that's
last
right.
folk style loss.
That's right. That's right.
Which
I hadn't really thought about it.
The freaky thing about Bassett this weekend for me was he wrestles Lucas Peters at Wisconsin, who's a dog.
Mhm.
Obliterated him. He wrestles Mesa at Arizona, who's tough. Donkey kicked him. He wrestles Larkin. Now, a lot of people look at that 11-6 score and think, oh, he gave up 2 takedowns in the last 40 seconds just not to go to his back. One time it was like an inside trip that he just bellied down on, and there was something else weird where he's like, whatever. He shut down all of Tyler Larkin's offense, which I've never seen happen. Because Tyler Larkin is one of the most, outstanding arrays of offense from the feet I've ever seen. And Bassett was like, nope, shoulder post, pick, slide by. I'm going to turn you 17 times. It was a madness. So now off of Bo, my stand-up performer I want to mention from the Southeast is Jason Rourke, man. Goes 5-2, went on a really good run, gets a really good win over Donovan Allen, who's an Illinois State placer. He loses to Tyler Larkin 7-0, and then he loses to Brant Hayer, who's a PA State blood rounder. Like, he just caught 2 draws, and it was like, damn, man. Like any other guy, you might slide through, but I wanted to say that, man. He had a really good weekend.
He did have a really good weekend, and he looked solid. Like, I mean, even when he was wrestling those other guys, and right there, he was right there. He was in matches, and Gorman ends up beating Herrera, and Herrera misses misses making the podium as well. That would have been Rourke's blood round match if he had beaten Herrera. Would be Gorman, but he wrestled super well. The other kid that I thought wrestled super well, and this is why I said this back at 126, and that is the new addition to Lake Highland Prep and Jace Paradin, who Florida State champ. He had a great run.
I can't disagree. He wrestled great, and I was pulling for him to get on the podium. I was pulling for him, and it met like a match or 2 away, but wrestled super good, man.
Yeah, so his win over Jarvis Little, I thought was kind of in like I like Jace a lot, but I probably, watching the 2 of them wrestle up until this year, I might have picked Jarvis in that match. And
yeah, I probably would have too.
And then, it just looks like Jace is kind of taking some steps after being in the Lake Highland Prep room that has really afforded him to get that much better. And I think he was on display this weekend. So
completely agree.
Let's jump to 138. And what do you got for me?
138, really good weight. Maddox Shaw ends up taking the title and looked sensational all weekend long. I had his semifinal against Braun, and he did his thing. He wrestled the way that he does, and it's, I don't want to say boring, but for a guy who's a scrambler like me, a guy like him that is very technical and traditional, it's not my style of wrestling, but I can very much appreciate just how damn good he is at it. Southeast guy I want to mention is Deshaun Poe, who went out, wrestled super tough, gets wins over Green is from North Carolina, and Dawson Johnson, who's at a Wisconsin State placer. And then he loses to Maddox Shaw 11-4, wrestled hard, beats Nate Askew on the backside, who I probably would have picked Askew outside looking in. And then he loses to Tyler Guerra, Illinois State placer, who ends up both his losses are to placers. And it's kind of like, All right, well, what do you say to that? Wrestle in both those matches though was competitive. This wasn't
Right.
him getting stomped by any means.
Well, actually, I was watching that match against Guerra, and I thought Poe was. I mean, he ended up losing 5-0, so it didn't look like it was all that close, but it was. Like he had opportunities. He had shots for a takedown. He could have won that match, and yeah, and Guerra
sure.
ends up making the freaking podium. You know what was really interesting to me? I was. So I watched Maddox Shaw versus Askew, and Shaw beat him 1-0 early in the tournament. 1-0. So you're talking about someone who I think Nate maybe finished 3-2 or 4-2 on the tournament, and the person who won the tournament, and they had a 1-0 match in the round of 32 or the round of 16 or something. So that's how close we are, right? I mean, you move one thing one direction, and next thing you know, Shaw is now on the backside trying to get his way back to the podium. So
Yeah.
it was certainly interesting, but I agree with you. Deshaun Poe was my standout as far as from the Southeast.
Shout out to Leandro Soto too. He wrestled real good too.
He did, and another Lake Highland pro. Yeah. All right,
Yep.
144 pounds. What do you got for me?
This was the Melvin Miller show.
Mm-hmm.
That's what 144 was this week. It was the Mel Miller show. So this is the weird one for me. So, Forrest, Bassett, and Miller all win titles for Bishop McCourt. 3 champions from a public school. If anyone, this includes Jason Bryant, if you're listening, if anyone could tell me, when's the last time a public school has had 3 national champs from Super 32?
It's a great question.
Like, I'm imagining a Blair's done it, Wyoming Sem, but I want to know a high school where they all live in the same area. When's the last time they've had 3 Super 32 champs in the same year? I don't know if it's ever happened.
And Herring made the podium.
Yes, and that's super incredible. But schools have had multiple places before. I'm talking champions in the same year. That's almost, I want to say it's unheard of and unprecedented, but I want to say that until I know for sure it's never happened.
Yeah. No, you know what? That's a great trivia question, and something that, I mean, you don't really have to go. It probably maybe happened really early in Super 32. If it happened, it happened way back when the tournament wasn't nearly as deep as it is now.
Yeah. But for the Southeast, I do think the big name at 144 is Logan Paradise, who continues to make me look like a genius. Continues to. Getting 4th. I don't care. I'm gonna keep saying it.
You go ride that
gets
horse.
4th. Oh, for sure. Gets 4th. Has some really good, wins over guys like Petrovic, Oliveria.
Did you see that?
I want to say
Oliveras, yeah. Did you see his throw?
I wasn't there, but I heard.
Oh my goodness. I wish I had captured that on video because it was beautiful.
Then he beats Gavin Linsman in the Bloods. Then he wrestles Brogan Tucker out of Ohio, who's tough, and beats him. His losses come to Hebler and Joy. I mean, neither one of those losses are anything to be ashamed about. Outside of him, Zeno Moore had a real good performance as well that I wanted to mention. And yes, I know. Like on the prep, I know. I was waiting on it that time.
I had a chance to catch up with Logan, and if you saw him, it was pretty typical Logan Paradise, which is a little beat up, little hobbling, but
bloody, just going blood from somewhere.
Yeah, just going out there and like wrestling hard the entire time, no matter who he's got. Paradise, 4th place, Super 32. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, how was it 2 years ago coming, getting your first taste of it, not being here last year, and then making the podium?
It was really good. So first I started off with in 8th grade, my mom missed registration for middle school, so I had to go and wrestle the high school division. I went 0-2, then the next year I went 0-2,
last year I was injured, so I didn't come, and this year making the podium, getting fourth, it feels good. It's nice to make improvements. Nice to see it.
Yeah, and you battled some injuries, you know,
Yes, sir.
battled through it. Had a little checklist of people you wanted to kind of continue to go against.
Yes, sir. A lot. My of course my Conti finals didn't go the way I wanted, but I mean that kid's solid. Just love to get that one back. Wrestle that kid anytime. Definitely closing the gap on him.
Right.
From Elite 8.
Right. Yeah. No. So I don't know. Average person, is it tougher to wrestle Super 32 or Fargo, and which do you like better?
Definitely. I'm in the moment, so I'm a little bit biased, but I'd have to say Super 32 is more difficult. But as far as a fun, quote unquote, fun tournament goes, definitely Fargo. Fargo, hands down. You get to hang out with your team. Everything's fun, especially if you're on the top side. Bottom side, not so much, but top side, you get to hang around with your buds, go to different places, Buffalo Wild Wings, a bunch of different stuff. It's so much fun.
All right. So actually, last question would be, what are you eating after making the podium?
God. Cookies, definitely cookies. I got cookies and candied apples over there. I'm about to go grub. I'm gonna grub.
Congratulations, Logan.
Thank you.
144 was the weight of bloods. It got to the point where I was saying with Cam Catrabone, someone just stick super glue in his nose and call it a day. Catrabone in his quarterfinal used like 3.5 minutes of blood time.
Did he really? Okay.
Yes, his nose was just, and it wasn't even pouring. Like, it wasn't like gushing. It was just, it kept running until the trainer finally gave him the full head wrap. And then it happened again in the semis.
So I think,
and then again in the finals.
The one person I would mention would be Osceola Anderson Heat. Had a great run, and it's really, I mean, I don't want to say it's unfortunate, but like, I mean, you got to win these matches if you're going to make the podium. But he won 3, then he loses to Catrabone, right? Then he wins 2, and then he loses to Jackson Joy, who's the 1 seed who got taken out by the champion. I mean, I think his 2 losses were to the kids who took 2nd and 3rd.
I mean, like that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
I mean, you got to win those matches, and you can't control your draw, but you lose to number 2 and number 3. Man,
no, they're for sure. You for sure have a little bit of like, you know, like my senior year, I lost to the champ and the guy that got 3rd, and I was kind of like, all right, at least they both placed. At least it kind of makes me feel a little bit better that I didn't lose to like a scrub.
Well, and honestly, if you lost to the kid who took 7th and the kid who took 8th, then you look at it and you go, well, maybe I am number 9, right? And that's just the way that works.
Yeah.
But you lose to number 2 and number 3. Yeah,
it's like,
that's like, dang, maybe I'm number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's jump to 150. What do you got for me?
150 was just a wild weight. Yeah, I mean, you had Denny.
It was all over the place.
It was nuts. You had Denny knock off Bazalkis. Yeah, I mean, your round of 16s, you had a handful of unseeded guys getting through to the final 16. Southeast, standing out performance is going to be Claudio Torres. Gets ends up finishing in 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Loses to
5th, sorry.
Bazakis.
5th.
Loses to Bazakis.
Yep. Wait, did he get 5th or 6th? Why is Flo being stupid?
Yeah, so the problem is that they've got some where there's no recorded, no like match results. So I don't
That's
know.
great.
And I actually don't know if the match even got wrestled. But the problem is that because I didn't see it get wrestled, and I don't know which of the two defaulted. Torres didn't seem hurt, but that doesn't mean that he didn't default. I don't know which one didn't. I don't know which one defaulted, or if there was a default.
I'm on. Yeah. Yeah, I could see the question there.
So yeah, CJ Torres.
One guy at 150. I do want to
semifinal, right?
Sorry, oh no. What? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One guy at 150. I do want to mention Antoine Glasgow out of Parkview, Georgia. He goes 4-2, man. Loses to Griffin LaPlante, who was the 12th seed out of New York. Loses to him in overtime in a heartbreaker. Like, had him on the ropes. Ends up eating a late stall call and gives up a takedown for it to get sent to overtime. Rides him out and then ends up getting reversed, and that'd be all she wrote. Just wrestled hard. And they lose to Draven McCall, who by no means is a slouch. So it's kind of like, man, feel bad for the kid. He had a good weekend, though.
Yeah. And honestly, I think you take a lot from some of those matches where we talked about it before. Making day 2 is a huge deal. And there were a couple of kids who got so close to making day 2. Him being one of them, Draven McCall being the other, who lost his next match, right? And then Chancery Dean from Father Ryan out of Tennessee. Who
he also wrestled good.
He lost, he beat Victor Soto 2-1 ultimate tiebreaker, then lost his next match, then won a couple of matches. So again, a good run, not a run that gets you to the podium, but man, certainly should open a few eyes as far as, being on somebody's radar as a result.
For sure.
157 pounds. What do you got for me?
157 was a very interesting weight. And say something just because I've got too many DMs about this nonsense. I have nothing against Army, the program, or anybody at West Point. I want to make clear what happened. I'm not looking at every kid's Instagram before they wrestle. To the person that DM'd me, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not looking at all their Instagrams. Okay, I'm sorry. We were looking on Bray's monitor, and it had their seed, where they're from, and where they're going to school. Joseph Antonio's name had no school next to it. And to boot, I'm going to throw this out there before I continue on. We were making a comment about how LaDarian Lockett going to Stillwater High School would mean, listen, geography quiz. What school do you think, if you lived in Stillwater, Oklahoma, would have an advantage recruiting you?
Iowa.
Please answer. See, now he's going to get me tight. But the answer to that question is Oklahoma State. For those who don't know, Oklahoma State is in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Now, Joseph Antonio is from California. So that would mean schools geographically closer would have an advantage in recruiting, which is exactly what I said. What I said was, just like Joseph Antonio, probably schools like Stanford, I think he said Cal Poly, and Arizona State would have an advantage, which is still true, might I add. Geographic recruiting is a thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I wanted to say.
Unfortunately, not for us.
Yeah, no, but still. Well, Chattanooga.
No, it is. Don't get me wrong. Carolinas and Campbell and Chattanooga, and it is somewhat. But, lots of the really, really best kids. Corey Land ends up at Northern Iowa. Goldhofer ends up at Northern Iowa.
What's his name just committed to Michigan?
Cooper Hilton just committed to Michigan. So, we see this exodus of some talent head, to other places. Cooper Haas, it was at West Point, so on and so forth. So, all right. So who stood out to you?
I just wanted to say that. Move on.
Southeast.
Chris Mann's had himself a real good
Did.
weekend. Didn't get on the podium. Dude, I mean, losses to Colin Young, who's a dog out of Illinois, and then loses to Jake Daly out of Pennsylvania. I mean, that's one of those where it's like, it is what it is. You're wrestling guys who are super, super tough. Another one out of me, or from me, Aaron Painter out of North Carolina. He wrestled tough, just caught Robbie from Virginia, tech followed him, and then he lost to Griggs in a weird one from Alabama. But he wrestled good, especially from what you might have assumed from him coming in. Those are my two main ones. And Seth Larson.
Well, yeah, I was going to add Seth Larson. And one of the things I was going to add about Seth Larson is that he loses to Woodcock in his first match. And that's hard because Woodcock from Ohio is a tough first round pull. Right?
Yeah, that's not a fun out.
But then he avenges a loss to Jack Weiland that he lost to at the one we were at up at Roundtree. Now, I know that was freestyle and this isn't, but he still took a loss to him, right? And then Seth wins 4 in a row, including a win over Max Nevlin, which is a solid win before losing to Enright from Illinois. So, when you pull Woodcock
Nevlin
off
at Jersey's a good win.
When you pull Woodcock off the scale and fall into that the consolation bracket, that's tough. And as I say that, the Lasser duo of Brickley and McGillicott, right? Pulled both number 1 seeds at their weights. Like one was Jack Forrest, and the other was Anthony Knox. Like, I mean, that's a tough pull, dude.
That's rough. It's really rough.
That is rough. It like everybody can say, well, you're supposed to be the bad seed and all these sorts of things. And I look at it and go, I'm sorry. That's nobody wants that off the scale. Nobody. All right, 165.
65, Southeast, stand up.
You got time. This whole man 30 feet away. Let's go. You better shoot it. Nice. Yeah! Finish it! Yeah! Come on!
Two guys in the top 4, both out of Georgia, Bambinelli and Schaefer. Man, if you don't know who Leandro Araujo was before this weekend, you do now.
Right.
That kid put everyone on notice. He beat everybody. He first off beats Ford from Virginia, who's tough, beats Ethan Burden, does something that should be illegal to Latrell Schaefer, and then beats Bambinelli in a wild one. Again, heartbreaker for Bambi. Gives up a takedown with 30, and Leandro rode him out twice. Like, tough one there for.
Yeah, and Araujo gets on top. Araujo was mean.
Yeah, no, he puts a saddle on you. He's incredible on top of that kid. Like, just for sure. Like, I mean, other guys as well from the Southeast. You look at Kendrick Hodge, Max Norman had a real good weekend. I think he was 1 or 2 from placing.
Yep. So, I'm right there with you. Like, so Bambi and Schaefer both made the semis. Schaefer gets Araujo, and Araujo just looked unbelievably good. Schaefer comes back through, then loses to Burden. But I got to talk to Bambinelli, and I went up to him right beforehand, and I'm like, look, we don't have to have this conversation. I mean, this is hard, right? I mean, it's not like finishing 7th. Finishing 2nd is, you're so close to that goal. You're so close to that sort of thing. And he's like, nah, let's
Finishing
go.
2nd damn near is worse than not placing.
Well, Yeah, but you know, he had a great attitude. He talked about just
He always
being
does.
He does. And you know, I think one of the first things he said was, "Man, that was fun." All right, Dom. Congrats on second. Like, I know it's that's a tough thing to say, but really, honestly, at this tournament and going down to the last few seconds, I mean, you wrestled your butt off, and it was a great run. You were just talking about how, you know, being on for every match and feeling good at certain matches, and then trying to get up and, you know, trying to be that, you know, that dominant Bambinelli that can like go out and dominate. How do you kind of deal with that mentally?
So really just you kind of got to just toughen out, and you know it's all right here. It's a lot of it, like with my wrestling and how I am, is in my head. I've learned to be stronger mentally, like these past few weeks training coming up here. That's literally the strongest thing, and not just wrestling, just anything you do in your life is just, it's all mental, it's all in your head. You got to talk to yourself. That's what I learned. Taking some time, you know, maybe step outside before your match and get some fresh air, and you know, just look up in the sky.
Well, I saw you out, I saw you out here before your match. Was that what you were doing? Just kind of clearing your head?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And are you kind of thinking about anything, or are you going through like kind of what's my match is going to be like, or you're like, I want to detach myself?
Well, a little bit of that. So I don't do too much like film study, but I'll obviously watch the guys who I'm going to compete against. But really, it's like I said, it's all here. And the one thing I just tell myself is just wrestle. This whole tournament, I don't think I've really had a thought in my mind. It's been really clear, and that's how I like it. That's one of my best, is when I'm just wrestling.
Well, and you said it before we started the camera, and that is, you wrestle best when you're having fun.
Right.
And you look like the tournament, you were having fun.
Oh, I had such a good time.
Yeah?
I love wrestling. It's awesome.
Love competing?
Yep.
All right, man. Well, congratulations. Again, I know it's hard. It's hard to take second, but you had a hell of a run. You had some great matches and everything else, and I can't wait for you to grab that belt next year.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Like that's the way you approach the sport, in my opinion.
For sure.
All right, let's move on to 175, where I tell you what, the Southeast unseeded wrestlers just said, we're not going to take it.
No. Landon Jones just woke up and decided to beat elite guys left, right, and center this weekend.
Make the semifinals.
Did, by the way, Jake. Yeah, makes the semifinals. And I mean, I commentated him and Burton. Burton was the better wrestler, but Jones gave him everything he could. Like, Jones for sure went into that understanding, okay, I've placed. They have nothing to lose. I'm going to swing everything I got.
Landon Jones.
What's up?
Dude, you know, like I just talked to Jake, like, did you come in with a little bit of chip on your shoulder, unseated?
Yeah, I wanted to prove him wrong, you know. I had a good week at Elite 8, and then my coaches had faith in me. You know, I felt like God was on my side. I just wanted to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah,
unseated
man.
to 4th place.
And you were on fire.
Yeah, that was the goal. I need to hit the gym a little bit more. I felt a little weak. I've just been wrestling recently, but I feel like if I hit the gym, get stronger, I'll wrestle better, move around more.
So I had to pry you away. I mean, I know we don't want to talk about like colleges and all that jazz, but you were a popular person this weekend. A lot of people talking to you.
Yeah, I got a couple of new numbers in the phone. You know,
yeah,
that's good. That's always good.
Yeah, is that a goal to wrestle in the next level?
Oh yeah, D1 for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So same thing with Jake. Like prep coming in, felt good. Anything that you took away from this week that you like was good? Was like, I want to work on better on this. What is there anything that you kind of were thinking of?
I felt like my stamina and endurance was pretty good. You know, I didn't really feel like too tired. I always had like a little bit more gas in the chamber. But top game, I didn't hold anybody down. Honestly, I just cut them, like let them up. I need to I didn't work on it at all, really. I just worked on neutral and bottom, which were my strengths during this tournament a lot.
So, do you pay? So actually, let's go back to what I asked Jake at the end of the thing. 3-point takedown. Positive or negative?
I love them.
You love it.
Offensive side, I love it. And honestly, when I was on like losing and then there was 3-point takedown, I didn't notice the difference. I still felt like I could score and get back on it.
Yeah.
So I like the 3-point takedown. That's a lot.
Landon, you had a hell of a run, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
But let's not to by any means overshadow Jake State or Landon Jones by any means. Jake Stacy's unseeded, gets his way to the podium. And then on the backside, Elijah Penn just decided,
and he was unseeded, and he makes the podium.
Yeah, and he just decided to do work on the backside. Looks like 3 or 4 in a row. So he loses to Cole Haan Lindmeyer.
Right.
All right. Then he beats Barack, McCloskey, Bottigy. Hell. The Massachusetts kid who was,
yes.
Good luck. Beats him, and then he loses to Stacy 4-2. Like, he had himself a weekend.
Well, and Stacy he took out Tyler Secoy in the blood round.
Yeah, he did. I forgot Stacy beat him in the blood round. And then as well, another guy from Southeast, McCloskey, he's your 9 seed. He gets a couple, loses to Brandon Woodward out of New York, who's super tough, and he loses to Benton.
Right. I think so. I got a chance to catch up with Jake Stacy and Landon Jones and talk a little bit about how they came in and they thought, you know what, after Elite 8, we should be seated. All right, Jay. So it's been a pretty busy week for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Commitment.
Yes.
All right. Where are we going?
Little Rock.
Little Rock. All right. And then you come into Super 32. Did you have a little chip on your shoulder?
A little bit. I just really wanted to place, and I knew I had the ability to do it. I just had to go wrestle hard.
Yeah. So, and you did. Like, you came through and competed hard. How do you handle that first loss to come back and make the podium?
Just learn from it a little bit. Hanging out on bottom too much and just not going as much as I need to in neutral. Just adjusting from that, and then having short-term memory and not dwelling back on that. Just keep going forward. The next match is a new chance to compete, new me. So anything that you took away from it that you we didn't see that you were like, I should have done this, or I was proud of doing that, or anything like that? I thought my defense was solid, but definitely need to attack more. And work on conditioning a little bit, and just keep pushing the pace on guys, wearing on guys, and getting off bottom a lot too.
So last question. You get ready for the high school season. Do you take a couple weeks and kind of heal up a little bit, or no?
I plan on wrestling at the Southeast Open in 2 weeks, so I'll probably just take 2-3 days off unless I feel like I need more, and then get my cardio ready for 7-minute matches.
Yeah. Did you like the 3-point takedown?
I love it. It's my favorite thing about it. New
awesome.
rules, 100%.
Congrats, Jake. I appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah. And they should have been.
Right.
I don't disagree. They should have been.
Right.
They should have been.
Because Landon Jones wrestled 195 at Elite 8 and went 3-4 or 4-3.
I think 3 and 4, but still, regardless.
Right. Jake Stacy wrestled 182.
You want to talk about interests? The way that 175 bracket in 7A last year has played out.
Oh, yeah.
Ryder, Fargo finalist, McCloskey, who's had himself an off season, and Landon Jones. I know they probably won't be at the same weight again, but can we just run that bracket back just for funsies?
If they're not at the same weight, none of them are making 65. Bambinelli's there. Right? So you got 3 at 2 weights.
Oh, somebody's going to wrestle somebody.
Right.
Like, somebody's going to have to hit somebody really hard. And the match I want to see, for all it's worth, I want to see Jones and Wilder.
Oh, that would be great, wouldn't it?
It's stylistically, I'm very curious. That match might have 35 points in it.
All right, so let's jump up to 190 pounds. And I'm going to start because I don't think we had. Did we have a placer at 190 from the Southeast? We did not, right?
I do not believe so.
But Case and Howell from South Carolina, who I thought would do well, did well. He came all the way through, got to the blood round, lost to Ziola.
Exceptionally well.
He did. He wrestled great. He his losses were to Rune Lawrence and Kate Ziola, with a win over Anthony Lowe of Georgia in the round before the blood round.
Yeah, I know
I feel like both his losses, you kind of sit there like, all right.
Right. And it shows you're there. You're there. We got to figure out how to get to the podium.
And
Otherwise,
again, Ziola beat him by a few, but it was by no means like I watched that match. I kind of sat Matt's side, and Hal gave him again, kind of in similar fashion we were talking about earlier. Hal gave him everything he had.
I agree. All right, 215 pounds. You called the Mako final against Harris. What'd you think?
That I did. I mean, Mako wrestled good. Just Anthony Harris, man. Harris did what he had to do to win, and sometimes, man, that's what matters. He knew that he gave up some stalls. He knew that, but he got the turn when it was needed, gets his 3, and Mako, there was a minute there at the end where I was like, yo, Harris has got to be really careful now, because the ref hit him for stalling at like 20 seconds left, and then with like 10, and I was like, this ref will call him a third time, and the third one too. I was like, you've got to be super duper careful. But he ends up getting, I think the word I used on the broadcast was survives. I think I said he survived Mako, which I think, in all honesty, I think that's a good way to put it.
It kind of felt that way. Watching it, it felt that way. So,
I mean, look, that's one of those matches where, sometimes you got to make a game plan, and it may not be the most fun. It may not even really be enjoyable to watch or wrestle, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the job done. So I can't be mad at it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to win here, so I can't be mad at him by any means. I mean, he did what he had to do.
So,
guy I want to mention.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
No, go.
Gavin Hardister out of North Carolina gets to the round for the blood rounds. He went like 4-2, and a win over Mateo Vinciguerra out of New Jersey. I mean, one of his losses was to Ryland Kunn, who is a dog. Like, Gavin for sure had himself a good weekend.
I agree. And I would mention Alex Smith. And I don't know if you remember this back from Florida, and that is, it was Mako and Smith, I believe, was the state final in 1A in Florida. Smith makes the blood round, had I think Scove. I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah, I think he had Scove, I think.
Right on the, I mean, he was wrestling super well against him. Could not make it happen. Ended up giving up, I think, like 5 at the end. Ended up losing kind of what would look like it was not actually a close match, but it was a close match up to that point. So, I mean, you get 2 kids who were in the state finals against one another. One's in the Super 32 finals and the other one's in the blood round. I think 1A in Florida has to feel pretty good about that.
Yep.
All right. So let's jump to our heavyweights. And
the big fellas.
Yeah, the big fellas. And we knew who the kids were coming in because we already saw them at Elite 8. Non-Southeast kids. Yeah. Herrera, man, that is a big joker. What, Sahakian? Is that how you say his name?
Sahakian, yeah. And it's interesting because Herrera, originally of California, moves out to Iowa because he's gonna go to Iowa State. And it was
Right.
funny because he said he talked about the reason he moved was there was not enough competition for him in California. And then you go to Super 32 finals and lose to a Californian.
Right.
Kind of funny.
Right.
It's kind of ironic.
So
Daniel
just
Herrera,
listen-
don't eat me next time I see you.
So just
I
going
was
down the
joking. That was a
list.
joke.
Cole Carter from Alabama, Damian Johnson, North Carolina, Gavin Uribas from Florida, Rivera from North Carolina, all made the blood round. It was a small bracket, but got close, but did not make the podium. So, all right, that was a long but good rundown. I thought we
Yep.
captured all the kids that kind of stood out as we were watching over the weekend.
For sure.
Very quickly, I don't want to go through weight by weight, but just very quickly on the girls' side, let's just touch on some girls that kind of really stood out to you. We don't have to go weight by weight, but let's just as a whole.
All right. You want to go first?
Sure. Why don't we go back and forth? So, Riley Sturgill, I believe, is a freshman at Baylor. She makes the podium at 95 pounds. And that is an accomplishment in a bracket that had a Jacqueline Bezekis, that had a few other girls in it. I was impressed with how well Riley Sturgill competed and wrestled this weekend. How about you? You got one for me?
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit of a homer here. Not that I particularly care. Nora Garbazovas, to me, stepped up a level this weekend, and she ends up losing in the bloods to Kendall Bibla. But man, had Bibla on the ropes. And previously, when they've wrestled, Bibla donkey kicked her both times. So when I saw the draw for her bloods, I was like, all right, 3-2 performance, not too shabby. She goes and is up big.
She is up
with like
until that left-handed headlock
like
came.
A minute or something left. And lefty headlock, Bibla puts her on her dome, but wins over Leo back, California's tough, and Delilah Queen. Nora for sure wrestled real good this weekend, and very proud of her performance. And she was wearing Fat and Scrappy brand, and that's what's most important.
All right, I'm going to go to 100 pounds, and you may not even know her name. And that is Abigail Gonzalez out of Florida. And the reason you might not know her name is
not
she's
familiar with her work.
8th grader. An 8th grader finishes 5th in the bracket. Her loss, and on the front side, was in the semifinals to Rhiann Murphy. So,
all right, yeah.
8th grader, telling you, all of you 100, 103, 106, 113 pounders in the future, you're on notice because she's coming.
For sure.
All right,
I'm going to go down to Florida, actually. I'm going to go up to 148 pounds. Sophia Delgado wrestled out of her ears this weekend and got on the podium. That win over Sydney Perry, if you guys don't know who Sydney Perry is, absolute hammer, and gets her on the front side. She's going to lose to her for 5th and 6th. But man, what a weekend for her. She wrestled super good.
I agree with you 100%. I was actually taking pictures of that match when it happened, and yeah, I think I wrote pow or boom or something like that when she got the fall, because it was a big win. It was a big win in what might have been the toughest weight in the tournament. I mean, that was a tough weight.
Yeah, I'll agree. Opinion. Yeah, I think it was too. I had to think about it, but yeah.
All right, I'm going to go.
I got one more after this. I got one more.
I'm going to go to the state of North Carolina and Leah Edwards, who finished 5-2 and in 5th place. And she wrestled super well. She beat one of yours, Carolyn Dover. She beat Rizzuto from Florida. She had some solid wins. She had a couple losses, but you know what? To make the podium from the state of North Carolina was really important as North Carolina gets ready to start their first ever official high school season in North Carolina. And that's pretty cool to have a Super 32 All-American in your group.
Agreed.
All right. Who you
So
got?
my last one's actually a duo up at 175. Genevieve on, as usual, looked fantastic. Ends up finishing third. Took a loss to Kaylee Hall out of West Virginia in the SEM 7-4. Man, that match was back and forth. She had a win over Murphy in the quarters. But I want to shout out Ireland Lauren for a minute.
Yeah.
Girl goes to Fargo. No. But there's a specific reason why. Girl goes to Fargo, places up at 200. She places at 175 Super 32. And then she posted she has ACL surgery. So I hit her up. Like, when did you tear your ACL? She's like, 4 months ago. She's been wrestling on a torn ACL this whole freestyle and Greco season. And into Super 32. And makes the podium. I don't care what you say to me. I don't care. I don't care. That is dog behavior. That is dog behavior spotted. So shout out to her.
All right. So I'm going to do, I guess, one last one. I don't know if I have any more, but we'll go with one last one. And that is Tiana Freeze. And Freeze ended up on the podium at 138 pounds. And Tiana won her first one, lost her second one, and then she won 4 in a row, including a 3-2 win over, I would consider probably a rival in the state of Florida in Bibla, because Bibla, I think, goes to hang on, are they on the same team? Yeah. So is you know what? Freeze might be on the same team. They might be both Matanzas. So anyway,
fascinating.
So they she had a 6-6 win on criteria on her way back. But the thing that's interesting is to lose early and win 4 in a row to make the podium. Man, I think that's a pretty cool thing. You know what I mean? To find your way to fight back through. So, and I think I said earlier 144 pounds. I'm confusing the girls and the guys. 148 pounds is the girls, not 100.
I did the same thing too.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So that is our show for the Super 32 wrap up. Did you pay any attention this week or the last, I don't know, maybe it was yesterday, first day of practice for state of Georgia for high school, making the transition over, moving from, out of the season kind of to now your goals change to trying to win a state title.
Oh, for sure. And for sure on my end, rankings will be updated. And I think we'll be getting close to get ready to drop at least the preseason rankings. I know that in some states, we kind of already called it a preseason rankings. But if we get to that point, we'll kind of call it a preseason V2. Because it was too early to call it. It was too late to call it the preseason. But
well, and we learned a lot from Super 32 Grappler this weekend's national
for sure.
or folk style nationals that will be in Iowa. We've learned a lot over the last 3 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Like there's a lot that will be changed.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, you have a wonderful week. And I don't know. Are you guys, when does Emmanuel start? When's the first match?
I think like in 2 or 3 weeks we go to Glenville State.
All right. But you're not on the mat yet.
I know that my first tournament, I'll probably end up wrestling my first tournament back at the Emmanuel Open or Georgia Open at Emmanuel. That'll probably be my first weekend back.
All right, man. All right. Any parting words?
Not really, man. I'm excited for the season, man. We're doing something really nice here at Emmanuel, and I'm enjoying it. Shout out to Killian and the crew. So I'm excited for the year.
All right. You guys take care. See you.